I read about 140 books this year, and of those 140, I had 53 5 stars. That's over a third of the books. 1 in 3 books was a 5-star. So we're gonna talk about them. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, my name's Emily, also known as Em's Novellas on all social media, anywhere, Goodreads, Storygraph, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. Em's Novellas. I set a goal of 100 books this year and completely overshot it by quite a bit. And we had a lot of winners this year. Also a lot of bad books. Let me know if you guys want a DNF, books I DNF'd video, because I also read some horrendous books as well, but we're gonna focus on the positives today. Behind me I have the physical copies that I own of the different 5 stars I read this year. There are also quite a few that I do not own, so I don't have the physical copy. So let's get right into it. We have 53 books, so we're gonna cruise. Buckle in, grab a snack, grab a little drink. Let's get into it. First and foremost, I know I'm starting off strong, not with just one book, but 5 books. The Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I wanted to reread this series. I haven't read this since middle school. You should definitely read it. This is kind of like the biggest series that really popped off for Rick Riordan. It follows a group of demigods who are sent on quests to prove themselves. There's kind of all these, there's upper politics going on between the gods themselves, like Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Athena, Aphrodite, all those fun ones. And this follows our main character, Percy Jackson. And I'm realizing now this is the 5th one you're looking at. Sorry, I'm spreading lies. Here's the first one, The Lightning Thief. But I reread all the first 5 and they were wonderful. And it was a nice little nostalgic read. Okay, I don't have memories of reading the whole 2nd series, Heroes of Olympus, but I know a lot of spoilers that I've accidentally just picked up on the years. So come next year, I think I'm gonna read those next. The next one's a short story that builds off the book Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. It is kind of like an extended epilogue. There's like a couple short stories, extended epilogues, dual POVs of the main characters. Long story short of the Better Than the Movies, it's about this girl who asks her neighbor, who's like super annoying, always bothering her, to help her make someone else jealous, and they fake date because she's interested in the other guy. It is a high school story, but the short story we're talking about itself is about the main couple. No spoilers, about the main couple who is on a little road trip to college together. And then the other one is the male point of view for one of the big dramatic scenes from Better Than Movies, the prom scene, if you know. So I gave both of those 5 stars. Just cute little fun little reads. I think they're available on Lynn Painter's website. You can find them there, but they also help with your reading goals. So a win is a win. Our next one, Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Look, is this her best writing? No. Is this the best written werewolf vampire romance? No. I love Ali Hazelwood. This is like a mafia-esque story. To give it you plain and simple, it kind of exposes you to the Omegaverse. And anyone that's read fan fiction, apparently, I've read a lot of fan fiction in my day and I did not know what this was. So this was an educational reading for me. And I just love Ali Hazelwood's writing style, and there was drama. And this sent me down a werewolf path. So, highly recommend. I think there's a sequel coming out next year, which I'm so excited about. Our next one is Butcher and Blackbird. This one blew up all over Book Talk, the book reading space. And it's about 2 individuals who are serial unalivers. And they have this little competition, this annual competition between the 2 of them, where they have to unalive someone first before the other one. It's also a love story, very graphic. Luckily, Brynn Weaver is very detailed about the trigger warnings, so make sure you read those, because an inappropriate use of food in both her stories I read so far, and I was like, oh, did this ruin this food for me? Maybe. But a fun little serial unaliver romance. Next one, I'm just putting this on there. It's not a book, and also fan fiction's a whole nother thing. But just because Manicold is coming off of AO3 at the end of this year, and I wanted to reread the trauma of that. For people that don't know, it is the Hermione fan fiction that will leave you severely traumatized. And the reason it's coming off of AO3 is because the author of it is actually going to be publishing it. Obviously it's not going to be Hermione because she does not have the rights to Harry Potter characters, but it'll be using her own OC's original characters, and I'm excited for it. I'm going to still read it. I think it's going to be the same exact story or very similar, but it'll at least be hers, and I want to re-experience the trauma, you know? Our next one is The Fake Out. I read this one a little bit ago. It's a hockey romance, and typically, I believe it's a college hockey romance. These can be a hit or miss with me, but this one, for whatever reason, I think they also talk a lot about like body positivity, body neutrality more so, and food freedom, and I was like, okay, hitting that anti-diet agenda. But it was super cute, super fun, and honestly, from a dietitian standpoint, I was just like, yes, no one's ever doing this properly, so this is wonderful. Our next one is a series that I was like, why are not more people talking about this? All right, okay, hold on, make sure all the books are okay. Everyone's okay over here. Our next 2 5 stars are Renegades and Arch Enemies. This is part of the Renegades trilogy. I gave the first 2 of the 3 books 5 stars. Third book gave me 4 stars. Unfortunately, that does not make the cut. You gotta be a 5-star to make the cut today. Renegades follows our main character, Nova. There's technically 2, but I'm partial toward Nova. In this world, there are superheroes and villains, and growing up, the superheroes wronged her family, so now she's on the villain side, but there's like an academy for the superheroes, so she infiltrates the academy pretending to train to be a superhero, but she's working with the villains. And our other main character, Adrian, is like the prodigal son of the 2 potentially like most important superheroes right now. There's a love story, there's lots of secrets and lying and drama, and this is just an extension, no spoilers here, but it gets even more juicy and dramatic here. And not to say that I'm biased in any way, which I most definitely am. Our main character, Nova, is half Filipino, so I love that representation there. This was such a good series. When I read it, I was like, why aren't more people talking about this? Hello? To each their own. All right, our next one. Oh my gosh, I was introduced to Miss Anne Liang this year. Between her and Yulin Kwong, those 2 authors, they're now automatically buys and automatic reads for me. The first book that got me into her world was I Hope This Doesn't Find You. I did a review about it way back when. My favorite trope might be rivals to lovers, or friends to lovers also just hits different. When I tell you this book was amazing, and everyone I've recommended it to has loved it. This follows 2 individuals who are academic rivals, and this girl is like kind of a people pleaser, always wants to be on good terms with everyone, but her form of therapy is journaling, but not in the way you'd think, where she types out emails to people that she wished she could send, but she just leaves them in draft. Like, if you like type out something like you want to send to them, but then you never send it, that type of situation. Something Miss Girl should not do, but does, is she puts the recipient in the email. So something happens, and all of these like 70 plus emails get sent out to all these people where she's just like going at them and like telling them how it is. Lots of drama, and a lot of the emails are targeted at her rival. So much angst, so cutesy, so much self-reflection of if you're like an independent girly or feel the need to people please, you will love this book. Let's take that segue into her other 2 books that also got 5 stars from me. I feel so honored. The book that just came out and her next one, I got ARCs for, and I'm like, I'll read anything you write. I am your biggest fan. Thank you for sending me those. If You Could See the Sun is one of her books I gave 5 star, and then This Time It's Real. If You Could See a Sun. This girl, another like academic rival to lovers. Anne Liang, I'm calling it out. She's the queen of academic rivals to lovers. I will read every single book she writes, even if it's the same trope over and over again. Just because she does it so well. If You Could See the Sun, this girl, they might be in college or so, maybe like a boarding school-esque, but she recently develops powers where she can turn invisible, and she turns this almost into like a service where people pay her to like go and like spy on people and find out information. It's wild. It's crazy. At the end it's like, are we felons? Type situation. Also, this cover is beautiful. Look at that. It's so good. It's so good. Highly recommend. Next one, This Time It's Real. This is for my fake dating peeps. This girl is a phenomenal writer. She also likes to write a lot about love, but has never really had any very genuine, lasting, impactful romantic relationships. She's kind of just making all this up, but they're like, wow, you speak so eloquently about love. Who are you dating that is making you feel this way? So she hires, I think he's like low-key like an idol. I don't know if that's the correct term, but or a model or something in her grade, and he's kind of like untouchable, where they're like, oh, he's so cool, and we're just all these like peasants. But she like somehow ropes him into it. I forgot how, but this is about their little fake dating story as she continues to want to pursue her writing career. So cutesy, so fun. Love. Okay, so at this point in the year, I'm reading all these really great books back to back. I'm like, I can feel myself falling into a reading slump. So I was like, let me read a book that I know I love. This is, I don't want to say it's my first reread of the year, which I don't think it is. It might have actually been my first reread of the year. So this is a series that follows the Spearcrest Academy students, and there's kind of like, it's low-key like kind of giving peaked in high school energy, but I live for the drama. And they might be like upper high school based off of how much they party and stuff. Maybe college. I hope college, but what do I know? And this follows like a group of friends, and each of the guys have their different love interests, and they each get their different book. I think out of the series there's either 4 or 5 of the books. I only like 2 of them, really. I think I had major problems with the other ones, but Spearcrest Prince. This one, after rereading it, I try to typically stick with my original rating, so I did with this one, which I gave it 5 stars. It follows kind of one of the more outspoken guys of the group, and he's set up in this arranged marriage because he comes from a very wealthy family, and they want to have good connections for their business model or whatever. I don't honestly know, but essentially the girl has no interest in being with him, and he has to kind of win her over. After like rereading it though, he's a little bit douchey for my taste, so I probably knock it down to maybe a 4 star, but I'm sticking with the original rating, and I still really liked it. A fun little like high school, maybe college, just like rich kid boarding school drama book. If you're into that, highly recommend. I will note Spearcrest Saints is the best one of that series though. I just didn't reread it for whatever reason. Our next one, I mentioned this author earlier. How to End a Love Story by Miss Yulin Kwong. This was her debut. If you don't know Yulin Kwong, let me let you know who she is. She is a screenwriter. She's actually helping out with Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation movie that's coming out. And this is a story actually about an author and a screenwriter who, so like, she just knows what she's doing. She's in it. She's working on Emily Henry trusts her with her movie. Lots of green flags. This is about two individuals who have a very rough past. There's a very traumatic experience that they don't really get along now, and now they're forced to work together. And the woman is the author, and her book is getting, I think, translated into a TV show. And the love interest is one of the screenwriters, and she's a lot of qualms with working with him. They have to work through that, kind of reflect on how that past experience affected them both. Also, there's a lot about like generational trauma. Our female main character is Asian, so for all the Asian folks out there, and like I feel like it's like really dives into like the expectation side of like always being perfect, never messing up, that whole side of everything, and then maybe a little bit of people pleasing. And I have said, and I think I stand by this, is that this is the most real and authentic book I've read this year. And I'm including like nonfiction and fiction. I just think this was beautifully written and I loved it. I highly recommend. Our next one is Cute. This is a queer romance set on the U.S. women's national team. I love the U.S. women's national team for soccer. I stan them. They are also like in real life queer icons. That whole team is just such a safe space. This book, obviously the author is also a fan because it's about a girl who makes it up, gets pulled up to the national team. There's a romance between her and one of the veterans, and it's kind of that like, it's a great book about an individual who like maybe has some control issues, doesn't know how to relax, and then someone who's kind of the opposite, a little bit more carefree, on the go, doesn't stress as much, and how they kind of help each other find a good balance. So cutesy, so fun. I just love soccer one and romance too, so it was wonderful. Highly recommend. Also the cover's so cute. I do want to own this. Our next one, Funny Story by Emily Henry. This was her big book this year. This is the one that came out. So this is about two individuals that find themselves confiding in each other, and okay, I can say this. I'm not spoiling it. They room together because their exes, significant others previously, now exes, decided that they were meant to be, so they both got ditched by respective partners. And now they're like, well, now what? Emily Henry's writing is just always so beautiful that really, I think she's another one, she could write anything and I'd have a good time. She does such a great job of exploring the grief and recovery after a breakup, especially with two individuals who are in such a bizarre situation and they have each other to confide in. Miles is literally the cutest with his little Crocs. He gives off like Nick Miller from New Girl energy, and Daphne is a little librarian and she's so cute. Oh, I just love them so much. Also, I'm obsessed with the oranges don't look at me, the oranges on the spine, so cute. Our next one is actually 13 books and they all got 5 stars. You're like, Emily, what type of series has 13 books and you gave them all 5 stars? The Spy Family series, of course. This is an ongoing manga. I only have 1, 3, 4, and 5. I want to collect the entire series, but it's still coming out. This was, I feel like a lot of people know about the anime, but this follows. Let me tell you, also this glare is, let me make it on Lloyd. Super quick backstory. There are two sides of country, the West and the East, and they're at war with each other. And Lloyd is a spy. He's sent, I think, from the East to the West, or West to the East. I honestly forgot. But he's trying from one side to the other to go undercover, get in touch with like one of these super high up, influential politicians, and essentially like take down the establishment, but what is going on from within. the guy he has to get in touch with is only ever seen at like the super prestigious events that at the school that his sons attend. So he's like, I have to get into this school. So all right, then the second book is the daughter. Our main character, Lloyd, adopts a daughter. She turns out she's a telepath, so she can read his thoughts and know what everyone's saying. So she knows he's a spy. And then he pretends to be married to Miss Yor, who is actually an assassin for the other side of, like, if he's west, she's east, or if she's east, he's west. Like, allegiances are on the opposite side. She's an assassin, but she pretends to work at like the city hall. Lloyd doesn't know that, but their daughter does know that because she's a telepath. And there's just so many secrets, and the family components are so cute. And obviously we're rooting for Lloyd and Yor to realize they're in love with each other and just get together for real. Everyone's concerned about like their secret power, secret identity being exposed. And then there's the drama with the school and everything. It's so fun and cutesy. And if they don't end up as a family in the end, like I said, this manga's not finished, I will be unwell. I will be unwell if they don't end up. So if they don't, check in on me mentally, please. But I read volumes 1 through 13. I don't have all of them. I'm on 14 right now. I actually might have finished. So if it did finish out, another 5-star. Our next one. This one has been on my TBR for a while. And I think it's because, I don't know if it's the plot twist that was getting advertised or like just saying like, I support women's rights and I support women's wrongs, you know. This is a retelling of kind of inspired by like the Red Queen of Alice in Wonderland, and like very, very loosely inspired by it, just kind of taking general key components about. It follows our girly Catherine, who just wants to have a little bakery, but her parents are trying to set her up in an arranged marriage. There's forbidden love, there's politics, there's drama, and at the end of the day, I will support her rights and Miss Catherine's wrongs. Our next one, Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood. Allie Hazelwood is another one I'll add on there, who's like an automatic read for me. Maybe not an automatic buy, because her covers I'm not the biggest fan of, just because like, I don't know. I like the art is very beautiful, but it just might not be for me. Not in Love is like one of her spicier books that I don't even remember why I like this so much. It's been a while. I did a review on it, and I said it was my favorite Allie Hazelwood book, but now that I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, it's about two individuals who essentially like, I don't want to give too much away because I don't remember. Oh, I remember, okay. So they meet up beforehand and they like start this little love romance situation, but then they find out that they're going to be working together, and his company is like buying out her company, so there's tension there. She's like upset with him, and they also don't want to tell anyone about their relationship just in case they get in trouble. And this was such a fun read. It was also like really good reflection on who we are as people, how we see ourselves, our own self-worth. Just a good little fun read, and definitely much more spicy than her other books, so you're into that. Our next one, I hated giving this 5 stars, but it had to. Tender is the Flesh. This was a book club read. One of my book clubs, I'm really trying to expand the different genres I am reading, and yeah, this definitely did it. This follows if in our world there was a disease that made essentially like animals very contagious with this disease, and we can no longer consume any animal products, so everyone can either become a vegetarian, or in this route they start harvesting and breeding humans in place of the animals. And yes, it's exactly what I just said. A very disturbing read, a very graphic read, a very good reflection on how we treat animals now. I gave this 5 stars because I was horrified, and I'm like, wow, good job, well done. I do not want this book ever near me again though. Next one, this was a reread. I reread Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This was in anticipation of Reckless, and I like kind of wanted to refresh and like, what happened in Powerless that Like I knew how we ended, but I'm like, what's going on right now? And it was just a fun little reread. I think I enjoyed it more the first time than the second time, but like I stuck with my original rating. This follows a girl who kind of lives in the slums in this fantasy world. There are the elites who have like all these strong powers, and then those who have like weaker powers, and then there's the ordinaries or unordinary. I forgot what they're called specifically, but essentially they don't have powers, and the elites are trying to weed and like get rid of all these people because they're threatening the population. They could make people weaker, all that stuff. There ends up being like these like games that they participate in that I don't really know what you win at the end now that I think about it. It kind of is giving Hunger Games-esque with like the interviews and the competition, and you could die. But then there's also like balls, which are, I like the balls where like they got to dress in the fun dresses, and there's a little bit kind of like a love triangle. I'm not a big love triangle fan. This one was kind of almost like a love angle where it's like unrequited kind of on one side, but a little fun read. I will give a quick spoiler, and I did do a review on Reckless. I did not care for Reckless, but I liked the first one. Next, here's the 7-Year Slip. Oh my gosh, wait. I don't have this one. Wait, hold on. Oh my gosh, how dare I? Next one we read was 7-Year Slip. I've heard really good things about this. This kind of gives like cozy little romance, maybe fall vibes. It's about two individuals who meet through a magical apartment where one of them goes in and the other one's from 7 years in the past, and they previously lived in there. And there keeps doing time jumps where like if you leave the apartment, you no longer have access to them, and then when time comes up again, they'll meet again. And then eventually they meet up in present day, and you, like 7 years is a long time, so one of them changes a lot and they reconnect. So fun, so cute. I think I cried reading this. I might have also been on my period, so I was like a little bit more prone to crying, but at least for me. This was so cute and fun, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I also love fruit nicknames. Hers was lemon, so like, so obviously I was sold. Our next one, Play Along by Liz Tomford. This is the 4th book in her, I think, Windy City series. It is a sports romance, and it's about a baseball player, and I don't really care for baseball, but it wasn't in it too much, so I didn't mind. This is about a baseball player and his trainer who accidentally get married in Vegas. And it's like very frowned upon for staff to be mingling with the players, so they have to like this fake dating, and you find out a lot about the girl's background. They're like, oh my gosh, you're rooting for her to like take down the establishment. And we also love women in sports. It's just fun, such a fun, cutesy read. Isaiah, the male main character, just does such a good job of like actually listening to Kennedy's needs and celebrating that, making her feel heard, you know. I also did a review on this, so be sure to check that out. Next one we read, I partially read it because I've seen it in the book online space for a long time, Dance of Thieves. I also like, there was a lot of discussion around how pieces of Powerless seem to be picked from Dance of Thieves, and Lauren Roberts, the author of Powerless, apparently has publicly said that she like loves Dance of Thieves and loves that series so much. So I like reread it. Or I didn't reread it. I read it for the first time because I'm like, let's see what the people are talking about. Like, what's going on here? And after reading it, there was quite a bit of crossover. Am I going to say it was copied? I don't know. But there was a lot of crossover. So I don't know. But this follows two individuals. I always love when there are two, I like love when there are two different ambitions, like in missions going on. One individual is sent in to this kingdom, this realm, with a group of people to kind of infiltrate. They have a different agenda. They're trying to find out something, like maybe take it down a little bit, or at least get them in check. But like the kingdom place doesn't even know that. And then the, like, I don't want to say the ruler or the king, whoever's in charge of this area, not like a mayor, whatever, a figurehead, a very important person, is also trying to find out something from the person coming in, and it's kind of forbidden love, but also there's so many secrets, and they like get captured, and there's different things that happen. They have to work together. And I just also love the female main character because she's like a soldier, and she like similarly came from the slums and was a thief, but then the queen of her other kingdom took her in. He's similar and powerless. I like the first book better than the second just because I love when there are secrets on both sides and they get exposed and all that shock value. I love it so much. The next one, this might be a top 5 book of the year for me. Should I rank them? Oh my gosh, you guys, at the end I'll give my top 3 books of the year. The X-Files by Jessica Joyce changed my life. I've been trying to own this book, but every physical copy I find of it has like the corners or like spine really gross and not good and like peeled off and not the aesthetic that I like to keep in my bookshelf. But it's about 2 individuals who were previously romantically involved, have since broken up, but their mutual best friend is getting married and they are the maid of honor and best man, and they have to work together because this wedding is kind of cursed, or like the groom thinks it's cursed. So they're like, okay, all these things are happening, and they have to go ahead to the venue and complete these tasks to help out the groom and bride because for whatever reason they're under a lot of stress and cannot handle it themselves. They have to learn to work together, and then there's a reflection of why they broke up in the first place, and it's so cutesy, and there's lots of praise. Catch my drift. And I love this book so much. I literally read it in July, like soon after it came out, and then the first chance I had, I think, was at book club. Either the next month or the one after that, I was like, you're all reading this, and everyone loved it. I'm like, which leads us into our next one. Jessica Joyce has also written You with a View, and this book was actually written for me. It follows a girl who's into photography, a girl who loves national parks, and she likes hiking. This is me. And she was really close with her grandma, and her grandma's like dream, or I think it was her grandma's dream or her past lover's dream, was to go on this trip to all the national parks together, and she wants to honor her grandma and do this trip. And she kind of blows up on social media as well, so people are like, yeah, do it, bring us along. And the past lover the grandma wants to come with, along with his grandson, who she knows from school previously, and like there's some tension there. They like kind of were rivals, but just like, I don't know how strongly I'd say they were rivals, but definitely didn't get along. But I'm talking so much, hold on. If you love national parks and photography and love, I wouldn't say this is as good as the X-Files. This is still a fun and cutesy little read. Also national parks, although look out, yeah, nature. Our next one is 3 books in 1, the Darkest Mind series. Anyone that knows me remotely about what I read, the Darkest Mind series is one of my favorite series of all time. Let me tell you why. I read this almost every year because somehow my long-term memory cannot retain the plot twists and whatnot, which is great. It's an advantage to me because I can re-experience them every time. The Darkest Minds follows a girl who, there was a disease that spread out, and all these kids from like whatever age range during that time got this disease, and if you survived, you develop powers. The stronger your powers, the less mentally or physically stable you are. She's the second tier in strength, so also a little bit unstable. But essentially, this is such a fun book about like propaganda around the government, what the government is saying. There are camps to try to control the children. There's a whole rebellion side from both adults, and there's a kid rebellion group as well. And there's a subplot of romance, which is so cute, but we love our main character. I wish that this wasn't on here now that I have it, this little sticker. I'm like, good. I will never watch the movie. I heard it's not good. But the books though, this one, okay, let me take you through them. This one ends on a crazy twist. This one we must rebuild and adjust to what happened in the first book. And this one is the crazy finale that literally I was like, don't get attached. That's all I'll say. So good. When I do my favorite books for next year, this series will probably be there right again because I read them every single year. Our next one was another reread for me. I was really feeling the rereads. I think I was a little bit in a reading rut. I'm like, I needed something to get me right back into it. King of Wrath, the first book of Anna Huang's King of Sins series. Another like very rich people romance. Follows our main girl Vivian, who is the heir to some successful company. I don't know, maybe jewelry, something like that, I don't know. But she set up with an arranged marriage to kind of, what's the word? Propel her family's social status forward. Obviously, the guy, well, not obviously. Little do we know, the guy's not all for it. Also, she's not really for it at all. They have to work through their differences. There's lots of drama. There are some cameos from the other book's characters. This was a good arranged marriage. Sometimes I'm like, when there's insta love, I'm not really into that, and we didn't really get that quite as much, which was lovely. So, I recommend. Also, we love Vivian so much. Our next one, False God by C.W. Farnsworth. Another story about rich people. I am not rich myself, but it's fun to read about them and perceive them and be like, oh, what is that life like? Kind of feel, this False God kind of feels like Gossip Girl-esque vibes. It follows a girl who, this is like a sequel to one of her other books I liked a lot, Fake Empire. She's the heir to like one of the richest American families, kind of like the Princess of America, they'll call her. And she meets a duke who is from London. There's a lot of like butting heads. They don't really get along, but they're both from rich families, so they like run into each other at all these events. This tension turns to passion, and I wouldn't say it's anything like phenomenal, but it was entertaining. And I'm like, what would life be like to go to the Hamptons regularly? I'll never know unless someone invites me. Please invite me, but also I don't know how I would dress because I don't know how to act, so would need help. Our next one, this is interesting. It's actually 3 different mangas. I'll clarify why. So I was reading A Sign of Affection for my book club, and volumes 1, 3, and 6 were my favorites. This follows a girl who is deaf, and it's a love story. The guy who she's romantically involved with kind of learns sign language for her. He treats her like a normal human being, whereas everyone else is kind of like very like cautionary around her, and they want to like, they're trying to be considerate, but to the point that she's like, just treat me like a normal human being. And he sees her as that. Very cutesy. I honestly couldn't tell you why these volumes stood out to me. Just at the time they felt like 5 stars, you know? I think there are like 9 volumes out right now. It's still ongoing. So it was just cutesy and fun. And there's an anime too, which I'm gonna watch. Our next one is Cruel Winter with You. This is a novella written by Ali Hazelwood. And it was part of that like, I'm not really sure what happened. I think it's 4 or 5 authors that did like Amazon exclusive books. This is literally like maybe like 80 pages, but in classic Ali Hazelwood fashion, she could just write anything and I'll love it. For the most part. So far, she probably has like a 90% success rate with me. This one follows a girl and a guy who have known each other since growing up. It's a very interesting because he's like the younger brother of her best friend. It's like not a creepy age difference, which is good. Classic, like he always liked her and she didn't think that, and then he sees her for who she truly is, and there's a lot of angst, and I loved it. And it just, you can fly through it. If you need something easy to help your reading goal, knock out those novellas. And then our last one, you guys, our last one, Kindred by Octavia Butler. This book was spooky in the sense that I was like so stressed the whole time. It follows our main character. Well, I've talked about so many books at this point that I'm like, they're all blending together. what is her name? Anyway, our main character suddenly is thrown back in time to antebellum Maryland, like 100, 200 years, 150 maybe plus years previously. And she runs into her great 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 grandpa, who is a slave owner. And she realizes that her great 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 grandma is one of his slaves. And she just keeps getting sent back to that time period at like very inconvenient times. She like is from 1976. So like slavery's been abolished, so is segregation. So she has to like learn to adapt in this terrible, awful antebellum time. Lots of twists, lots of stress, and Octavia Butler like really, she just sucks you in. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I want the best case scenario thing to happen right now, but I don't know if there is a best case scenario at this point. But such a good read, I would highly recommend. I think everyone should read it. All right, hi. So after recording the main part of this video, I finished one last book that I gave 5 stars for the years, All Boys Aren't Blue. I literally alternated between sobbing and rejoicing while reading this. It was so emotional. Also, it's on the top of a lot of banned books lists, so I was like, yes. It's a memoir written by a Black queer person in their life. Very interesting. I think everyone should read it. Make sure you read the trigger warnings though. With that, back to our regularly scheduled program. And that concludes all of my 5-star reads for this year. This was so fun. Thanks for staying through this if you have. I appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube so you don't miss any more bookish videos. But let me know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts were, what your favorite 5 stars were this year. And I'll see you next week. Otherwise, Happy New Year and cheers to a full another year of reading. I love this for us.